Welcome everybody to GameCast Continuum. Thanks so much for tuning in live here on Mixer, watching us on YouTube, or listening on Podbean or iTunes. We are your hosts, DC Skater Shane,
Mr. Bojangles, 1984.
And me, Drake Dangerson Esquire, Jr., Theodore Logan.
The third?
Yep.
Okay.
Well done.
Well, absolutely. Here at GameCast Continuum, we randomly select some of the greatest games from past and present and go into their history into detail. But that being said, before we can dive into all the good fun stuff, let's take care of the usual housekeeping. We do this podcast live every Sunday night over at mixer.com/gamecastcontinuum. But the best way to keep up to date with the show is give us a follow on Twitter over at GCContinuum, where we tweet out changes to the schedule as well as when the episodes go live and when the next episode's going to be. That being said, this week's episode is going to be a little different than previous. It's a little more history based, but fun and exciting nonetheless. At least I thought so. So strap yourself in, and we discuss one of the original puzzle games known as Tetris.
Tetris? Who the fuck played that game? Shit.
I don't know, man. I've never heard
Maybe
of it.
Not me. I have never heard of this game. It was developed by some Russian dude named Alexei. Oh God.
Have fun.
Pajinov. He was a spy. It was for
He could have
June
been.
1984, so I was all of 3 years old. So I was probably playing this game with Duplo blocks at that time. It didn't come here until 1986 because those goddamn Ruskies didn't want us having fun, apparently.
They didn't want to give away any trade secrets by accident.
I know, right? Yeah, Tetris was originally their nuclear codes. Actually, Alexei is 61 years old now. He was working for the Center of the Soviet Academy of Sciences, which probably did like the dark arts and everything. Is basically their government's R&D center. So yeah, that probably was dark arts. That's where they were trying to resurrect Rasputin. Even though the game was created in 1984, he didn't receive the royalties initially because, well, Soviet Russia. He only started to get the royalties in '96 when he had a gentleman named Hank Rogers form the Tetris company. Did they really form it like he was an L block and the other guy was an L block? Never mind.
Oh.
Oh,
I don't know. That's a great question, though.
That's their logo.
it's their logo. Two guys doing that. Oh God. The Tetris company, which is based in Hawaii, so that's a step up, obviously, from the USSR. Licenses the Tetris trademark to game development companies, so these guys make fucking bank. It requires a set of guidelines that must be followed, such as the bottom controls for the game's functions must be consistent, and that's really it. Hank Rogers, he's Dutch, so him and Goldmember have something in common.
He was from Deutschland.
From the Deutschland. He produces Japan's first major RPG, which is actually quite an accomplishment considering their fanfare there for RPGs. It's called the Black Onyx. It's funny because the first time I was reading through this, I thought it said Black Oryx, and I was like, "Oh my god!"
That's
There
where
was
it all
another
began.
Oryx?
That's where it all began. Shit, I have to go back really far. Basically, he serves as the managing director of the company. Back to actually Mr. I'm gonna call him Russian right now, or Alexei. He helped design the puzzles in Yoshi's Cookie for the Super Nintendo, which actually was like, I mean, all these games are pretty fun. This was another great example of like another fun game because I remember having a blast. I couldn't get an SNES. I was a Genesis fan, so woo columns. But they had this at the display at one of the department stores around here in Ohio called Hills, which isn't around anymore. Big surprise there. But they had it like right next to the Virtual Boy, so you could go play on the Virtual Boy and get a major fucking migraine, and then play Yoshi's Cookie and just get frustrated as hell. He designed the game's Pandora's Box, so as you can see, he is quite easy. Yeah, the guy's pretty fucking good at puzzle games. He probably like just sleeps thinking of puzzle stuff. From October 96 until 2005, Alexi was employed with Microsoft. He designed a few of their games for the Microsoft Entertainment Pack, the Puzzle Collection. When he was there, he his enhanced version of Hexic, known as Hexic HD. Big surprise there for the 360. How the HD DVD thing go? Heyo, was included with every premium Xbox 360 package. In '96, GameSpot. Wow, that must have been in their infancy. I remember going to that website when I was looking for video games. It named Alexia the fourth most influential game developer of all time. Ooh, I can't talk.
Yep.
And in 2012, he made IGN's list of the 5 memorable video game industry one-hit wonders and called them the ultimate one-hit. And that's kind of an unfair thing, like calling him a one-hit wonder. I mean, yeah, he had an awesome hit, but he was still relevant, like throughout the process. It's not like, he sang that song, There's Something There to Remind Me, and was never fucking seen again, is now probably playing its shitty ass like little pub with 2 people in it. One of them's an old lady showing her tits. But this guy but I mean, yeah. IGN, screw you. Publisher, Spectrum Holobyte?
Yeah.
That's the nerdiest fucking name they could think of too. Jeff Salter, Phil Adam, and Mike Franklin all got together. It was like, hey guys, what should we call it? We're gonna call it Spectrum Holobyte. And they're best known for simulation games. Big surprise there. Gato, which is Spanish for cat. It's a World War II submarine simulation.
Yeah.
Okay. Falcon, which is a flight simulator. I wonder if you play as a falcon or you play as a falcon driving a plane. And Vete. It's a driving simulator. Oh, so like Corvette.
Or Vet.
All right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Vete.
But
It's
But
Italian.
the reason I say it like that is it has an exclamation point by it. And the publisher for the NES version was actually ported through NES, so they got to the game. They got to that on the NES, but we'll actually get to that a little later when it comes to some of the facts.
Yeah, there were many platforms that the game was available for over the years. I mean, although it was originally published in the U.S. For the Commodore 64 and the IBM PC, excuse me, that's where Spectrum Holobyte had their expertise there. But, as I just mentioned, Tetris and many of its variations can be found on just about any gaming platform, console, computer, phone. Like, you can find Tetris everywhere nowadays. But over the years,
if I can interject for 2 seconds,
yeah,
I actually when I was in the Navy, I worked on a system that I'm not going to go in any depth in because I'm not sure what I can and can't talk about. But we actually had a testing device on it that had an O-scope on it, or an oscilloscope. And if you press like 2 buttons down on the oscilloscope, Tetris would come up. And Tetris was actually part of one of to like test out the actual screen for the oscilloscope.
Huh.
That's neat.
So, fun fact.
Yeah, not quite an oscilloscope, but Tetris is also put on graphing calculators and many things that you wouldn't think.
Anybody ever
to
have one of
find
those?
Tetris on. What, graphing calculator? I had one in school, yeah.
Yeah,
I think everybody had one.
TI-83, and I had Tetris on there, and then Drug War.
Yeah, those games were fun. Little text-based games and stuff. But even though it was on all of those platforms over the years, it was really the successful launch of it on the Game Boy that made it as popular as Tetris became. Brought it into a lot of people's hands and really into the mainstream at that point. In the game itself, there's many different game modes depending on which version you're playing. The original one only really had like game type A and game type B. Game type A was like you play through the levels. Game type B, like you selected one level, like you could start off with a bunch of lines already if you wanted. But that was basically it. It was a very simplistic game originally. But now you play Tetris Ultimate on the PS4. There's like endless. There's like bomb
Yeah.
attack mode. There's so many different game modes in
Variants.
Tetris now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's one where if you like fail, somebody just starts throwing bricks at you and puts you in like some sort of weird brick prison.
Yeah, brick prisons, solitary confinement. It's not good.
Yep.
It's just not
No,
good.
it's not great. Don't fail.
The moral of the game.
Yes, failure equals solitary confinement. Anyway, there are at least the ones that I found, there are at least 57 different official and 10 unofficial variations of the game that have come out over the years. Three that I found, to be pretty important because they're all also developed by Pajitnov. Yeah. Pajitnov. That's what I'm going with.
The Ravishing Russian.
Yes, the Ravishing Russian. Double R for short. He also developed Weltris, which, from what I gather, it was quite similar to the original game, but the pieces would travel down the side of like a wall, and as soon as the wall space, all of the walls were inaccessible, you lost the game at that point. Sounds kind of strange and confusing just by reading about it, not actually playing it. But Hatris is kind of silly. You're essentially just trying to stack a variety of hats on people's heads.
Oh,
Or you have to
fancy.
you have to get 5 identical hats in a row to clear them out, and then you kind of get the gist from there. But how about Faces Tris 3?
I've heard of this. I've actually seen it.
Yeah. It's the fourth and final official version, designed by the Raging Russian. Yeah, double R.
Spectrum Holobyte.
Yeah, and it was also published by Spectrum Holobyte, and it was the winner of the 1991 Software Publishing Association Excellence. Wow. Software Publishing Association Excellence. It won the award for a software award for Best Action in an Arcade Program. And in that one, you had to arrange pieces to form faces, and there were some famous people in there, and there were actually 10 difficulty levels, and it also featured a head-to-head mode as well.
Huh.
So you and a friend
fun.
could compete to make faces.
no pun intended. I mean,
but yeah, there are like so many more.
My
Well.
favorite, Candy Crush.
can't.
It's not really the same though.
I know.
You don't have different shaped pieces and stuff.
There's different candy.
Yeah, there's different
is
candy, but they only take up one slot.
You're a
Yeah.
slut.
I remember my
Sometimes.
girlfriend had Candy Crush, and because I was like I played Tetris so much, couldn't get past like puzzles. I would just like step in there for her and just like be like, "What the hell is this? This is easy. Get out of here."
I mean, even with that though, you look at, I mean, shit, any of the games that are coming, any of the puzzle games out now, I mean, they all take,
Kinda-
cues from that in one way or another.
Mhm.
I mean, shit, most of the games now are all match 3 either way.
Yeah.
Yeah, just match 3 and it clears out those pieces for you.
I mean, I personally, when I was sort of doing some research into this, I actually found a lot of the medical stuff kind of interesting. Actually, it was kind of surprising, a lot of the things that I found. Like, I mean, the main thing with Tetris in general is something called the Tetris effect or Tetris syndrome. Well, basically, if you put a lot of time into an activity, it starts actually changing your thoughts, mental images, and dreams. So
Now known as the WoW effect.
yeah, kind of. I mean, well, they actually compare it to sort of like the sea legs effect too, actually.
Oh, yeah.
Because you're used to that motion of being on the boat and everything, and then
Mhm.
when you finally get to land, I mean, you should, know you were being, in the Navy, correct?
That's right.
Yeah. So I mean, with that, from being, I don't know how long you were out.
I think the longest time was 3 months. Yeah, 3 months straight at sea. So yeah.
I mean, I don't know how long it takes for things to really take effect per se.
It's per person. I didn't really ever feel the sea legs effect, but I knew people who did.
But yeah, they kind of compare like the Tetris effect, similar to that actually, and really any kind of prolonged experience to one thing or another it'll start changing thoughts and everything like that. Like with Tetris, the one example that they kind of gave is if you played it for an amount of time, it can start changing how you think of different shapes and how they'll fit in the real world.
Mhm.
Like
I
boxes
do that
on
even
shelves.
without playing Tetris. Maybe I played too much as a kid.
I do it with human body parts.
Oh, I wouldn't go that far, but
And then aside from that though too, there's a lot of other studies done regarding Tetris too and how it kind of affected your brain. Like in 2009 actually there was the Biomed Central did a study regarding the Tetris effect, and they actually used MRIs to scan the brain of people who played Tetris 30 minutes a day and those who didn't. And it basically showed that the people who did play for 30 minutes a day, that the gray matter in the brain actually thickened, which I guess in turn increases physical cognitive development, which I thought was kind of fascinating, actually.
you're essentially solving one puzzle after the other while playing the game, so it kind of makes sense in a way.
True. And then also, actually, same year, an Oxford study also said that like playing those kind of games could actually help prevent. And this actually is one I thought most interesting, that it can actually help prevent the development of traumatic memories.
Huh.
Yeah. Basically, if you start the treatment soon after a traumatic event, you're basically preoccupying your brain with the shapes and everything like that, and it prevents the mental recitation of the bad images. So basically it's pushing all those things out and just kind of helps you focus on, it basically pushes all the bad memories out of the way. So it kind of helps alleviate traumatic events from people, which I thought was extremely fascinating actually.
It is fascinating, and I mean,
Yeah.
like we could go. I'm not an expert on any of that, so I mean, we could go on a deeper dive to really like kind of look at like the pros and cons of something like that. And like immediately, all I could think of is like, well, yeah, you're doing that, but are you really processing like some of that stuff? Is it just, or just is kind of like just fall off of you and you become a machine?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's really another way to look at it too, is if you're just more or less becoming machine versus just dealing with whatever you just went through.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But besides that, aside from actually just doing things sort of like mentally, actually, the other study that was done in Canada actually in 2013 was apparently Tetris can treat older adults and younger kids with a lazy eye.
Oh.
Instead
I have
of
a friend who has a lazy eye. I didn't do anything for him.
But did he play Tetris?
Perhaps, I guess not enough, Shit.
yeah, and I guess basically instead of patching the good eye to help train the weaker eye with playing Tetris, it actually somehow or another gives the same effect. And then in the UK, they actually tested it on children and actually helped on them as well. I don't really know the extent of what, I didn't really dive too deep into the studies, but I thought that was kind of really all three of them. I thought it was actually pretty interesting how just a simple, puzzle game or whatever it may be has actual medical effects.
Yeah. I mean, it's like similar. I know before like, video games and everything like that, I know like a lot of people in my family, and they still do, they get puzzles and stuff, like actual, you put the puzzle pieces on the table and do them. I know like during like harder times, they like to, do those puzzles because I think it does that similar effect to where they're like, they went through something traumatic or things aren't going so great, and they kind of just want something to, take their mind off of it and everything, so they can, kind of like just chill for a little bit and actually do puzzles. But like putting this in like video game form wasn't like is awesome. And I don't think Alexi had any idea that it would like lead to stuff like this. where it's actually helping
No.
people.
Yeah, probably not. But I mean, many video games nowadays. I mean, games are being used in many different ways
Mm-hmm.
to help treat with post-traumatic stress disorder, and I think, and stuff like
PTSD,
that.
like a lot of introverted people, it helps them like kind of get out of their shell too. I mean, not that that's like a medical condition or anything, but it kind of familiarizes people with the similar interests that you can actually talk to.
Well,
Yeah.
I mean, with that too, as far as aside from like Tetris aside, I talked about that in our beginning episode, like when all the shit was sort of happening, like with my dad, like when he was sick and everything.
Mm-hmm.
That was actually around like when No Man's Sky had come out, and I actually sat there for a while, just
Discovering planets,
just kind of exploring, just kind of threw my headset on and just sort of would kind of zone out for hour to a day, and
Yeah.
it kind of
it's
really helped.
therapeutic.
Yeah, it really helped keep my mind off of everything,
Mm-hmm.
at least for a little while.
A little while, you still have to like deal with stuff, but you can't like do it constantly or you
Right.
go mad.
Well, that's fair.
Just a little.
But
well, I mean, we're at this point. What is this game most synonymous for?
Music.
All right. Originally on the Game Boy version of this game, it came with Music A. It's an instrument. It's a arrangement of Russian folk tune called Karabaluniki. That's really how it is. There's a lot of letters in the middle
There's
of
a
that.
lot of vowels in there. Yeah.
Yeah, there's things that shouldn't be there. It's known as the Tetris song. People know it. Like even people that don't play video games will know the song. They'll be like, "Oh yeah, I played Tetris on the TA-83." And the nerd kid behind me would hum the music as I'm playing. Level 20 of Tetris DS is based on the Game Boy version. Uses the Music A theme. It was covered by UK dance band Dr. Spin. I was hoping it was Spin Doctors. US alternative rock band Ozma, Tokyo Ska Paradise Orchestra, Bass Hunter, Dr. P, and German techno group Scooter.
Ooh.
Yes.
Yes, we're gonna play the Tetris music. A remix version of this, and we'll get to this in a second. Music B were arranged for Super Smash Brothers Brawl, and could be selected for the music on Luigi's Mansion stage, as well as custom stages. Whatever, Melee was better anyway. Music B is original soundtrack by Hirokazu Tanaka, the game's sound designer. Music C, it's a arrangement of Johann Sebastian's box. Sebastian. I gotcha. French Suite number 3 in the B minor. An actual nice little classical tune. The NES version, Music 1 had Dance of the Sugar Plum Fairy. Fairy. It was named after DC skater Shane. Tune noted for being scene 14C of Act 2 of the Nutcracker, composed by Tchaikovsky.
All these Russians.
One song. Oh, those Russians. Actually, the Nutcracker has some like awesome music.
Yeah,
but
it does.
Besides, like the sound in the background, some guy getting his nuts smashed.
Oh.
One song in the BPS and Tengen versions is Kalinka or Karinka, as referred to in the game. God, it must have been a bad translation. It's a famous Russian song written by Ivan Petrovich Larionov. I got it.
Yay.
Okay. The victory song, playing while the rocket blasts off, is George Bizet's Les Toreadors from Carmen Suite number 1. I always remember the rocket, and I was like, "Oh man, did you beat the game?" No, it just happens every 5 levels. Oh, all right.
Yeah,
What's
sweet.
the rocket? I have no idea. The Atari version of Tetris, it's NES ported by subsidiary Tenjin. Ooh, that's gonna be fun when we go over that. Have original pieces composed by Brad Fuller, as well as the traditional Russian tunes also arranged by Fuller.
Ooh.
By Fuller.
Fuller.
Yeah, there's a lot of music in Tetris, but Music A
Yeah.
from the original Game Boy version is, I think, the most popular one ever.
It's the
monochromatic goodness.
It's the most iconic one. I mean,
Yeah.
So good. In some ways, I like Music B a lot more, though.
Yeah. I actually found that very agreeable. Music A would sometimes start grating on me.
Yeah.
It makes me want to throw my Game Boy when I can't get past a certain level. But Music B had that calming feeling. You're changing. You're going further.
Yeah. It is what it is. But with a little behind the scenes action here, gonna touch on that NES and Tenjin and all that stuff. There's some beef, maybe not beef, but some things that went down as far as licensing and stuff like that. But yeah, in 1989, there were half a dozen different companies who claimed rights to create and distribute the Tetris software for the home computers, game consoles, and the handhelds. There was Elorg, which was a Russian patent office. Elorg, the Russian patent office, meanwhile, held that none of the companies were legally entitled to produce an arcade version and signed those rights over to Atari, while it signed the non-Japanese console and handheld rights over to Nintendo. Tetris was on show at the January '88 Consumer Electronics Show in Las Vegas, where it was picked up by Dutch games publisher Henk Rogers.
Hank Hill. The boys are walking in my tool shed.
He was a publisher, I guess, working with a publisher that was based in Japan. And then eventually it led to an agreement brokered with Nintendo that saw Tetris bundled with every Game Boy system. Rogers later stated that Tetris made Game Boy and Game Boy made Tetris.
Can't fault him for thinking that.
No, not at all.
It came with the little handheld console, so it was pretty genius on everybody's part.
It's not wrong.
No.
Tenjin, this wonderful company, was responsible for the console software division of Atari Games. Regardless, they applied for copyright for their Tetris game for the NES, loosely based on the arcade version, and proceeded to market and distribute it under the name Tetris with the backwards R, and looks just really nefarious. But the Soviet mind game with the faux what the fuck, Cyrillic typography incorporating the Cyrillic letter Ya. Oh my god. That was just disregarding Nintendo's license from Elorg.
I think I'd rather play regular Tetris.
Yeah. Yeah.
No way. The backwards art makes it better. Shut up.
It's evil Tetris.
Edgy. It's edgy.
Yeah, it's edgy. It's edgy AF. That's what that is.
You really want to play the Soviet mind game?
I do every day of my life.
Just Tetris with the backwards R made me feel a little uneasy, and then you put the Soviet mind game. Yeah, just adds to my. Anyway, Nintendo ended up reaching out to Atari Games, claiming that they had stolen the rights to Tetris, whereupon Atari Games sued Nintendo, believing that they had the rights. After only 4 weeks on the shelf, the courts ruled that Nintendo was the only company which had the rights to Tetris on home game systems. Tenjin's game was recalled, and it's not known how many copies were sold by that time. Probably like 2, but that had to get taken off the shelves. The lawsuits between Tengen and Nintendo over the NES version carried out until 1993.
Wow.
So that was what, 5 years, 4 or 5 years that they were in courts over that stuff.
Yeah. Tengen were they? I mean, they were like, it's a business thing, but Nintendo had this like lockout software put on all their cartridges to where you couldn't play games unless they were like had like that lockout cleared on their software, and
Yeah.
Tengen actually found a way around it. That's why I don't know if you remember them or if you've ever seen them, but like they also ported Gauntlet to the Nintendo, and it was like a black Nintendo cartridge, but it had like a weird look to it. It wasn't like your normal gray with like that shape. It had a similar shape, but it was like kind of like a smoother effect on it. So yeah, they were Nintendo was already pissed off at these guys, and they just did this to like
Spite them.
yeah, basically it was just another fuck you from another company, and they were like, okay, this is the last time.
Yeah. Nintendo isn't one to mess around. Shit, people are afraid to stream their games on Twitch and stuff because of
This is true.
how strict
Yeah.
Nintendo is.
Yeah.
But anyway. Now, like we brought up in the beginning of the show, like who hasn't played Tetris, right? So how about we just share our experiences with this wonderful game?
I mean, personally, my first memories of it went back to, well, Game Boy, obviously. I ended up getting my original Game Boy from I want to say through my sister or whatever. It's kind of a hand-me-down. But I played the ever-loving crap out of it. I had like 3 games for it at the time. I think I had Tetris, Paperboy, and something else.
Super Mario Land.
It might have been. But yeah, it was one of the few of the games that I had, and really what I liked about it, with Tetris especially, is that it's one of the first games that actually gave you that proverbial carrot on a stick. Keep trying to get better, get a better score every single time. And
maybe you'll get to the end.
But what was nice too is the more you actually played the game, you actually felt like you were getting better at it too, which I thought was kind of neat. It was one of the first games at that time that you actually, the more you put time into it, you actually got better. As opposed to a lot of the earlier games that you really, I don't want to say it was luck based for beating the things, but.
And I mean, a lot of them were scrolling too. I mean, it was side scrolling, so it was kind of
like
go
Simon's
this way.
Quest.
Yeah. Oh, sir.
Well, you didn't like Simon's Quest?
Oh, are we talking Castlevania 2?
Yep.
Yeah. This isn't a Castlevania 2 podcast, and I do not want to get into it.
We don't have the time.
I really enjoyed Simon's Quest for some reason. I don't know. Not as much as I enjoy Tetris.
Fortune.
Yes. I do enjoy masochist pastimes.
Ah, good.
Yeah, but Tetris itself is kind of one of my favorite games of all time. I don't play it as often as I did over the years, but I just love how it's so simple, but it's still really addicting. Probably having to do a lot with what DC brought up, the whole carrot on the stick. You just want to see if you can do better. And he's right too, because the more you play, the more your mind thinks about where to place the certain pieces to leave the door open for pieces to come later down the line, and it's just so iconic and catchy, especially the music. Like while I was doing research, like I was listening to different remixes of the Tetris themes, and it was like a couple of hours of just Tetris music that I was listening to, and I could still do it again. It just really grabs you by the cojones, so to speak, in a way. Ooh. For me, but in a good way. It's a nice, gentle, massaging way.
Just with a soft hand.
Yeah.
Yeah, I played it as well. We mentioned earlier I had it on my TI-83. It was like the first thing I wanted somebody to, that had the code to, put it on there. But I my first experience was with the Nintendo, the Game Boy. I played the hell out of that. That and like Final Fantasy Legends or something like that were like my two top games. But during one of my deployments, I think it was like in 2006, we had a person with a modded out Xbox that had a lot of games that weren't for Microsoft's Xbox on it, and one of those was from a Super Nintendo, and it was Super Tetris. And we had a good 2-week span where there were like call outs. We'd challenge people, and if we had any arguments, they were all settled on the
Tetris.
In Tetris. It's shit like this. Being out at sea kind of drives you insane, and this is like proof. But yeah, we had a little tournament. I was not the champ. I don't even think I made it to the semis, and I talked a lot of shit. So there is that.
That's hilarious.
Fair enough. I mean,
some throwdown Tetris tourneys on the ship.
Tetris. I also told him like if we played the top-down version, I would have won, but I was totally lying because that game was fucking stupid and hard.
No,
I mean, no, I'm good.
No.
I mean, obviously Tetris, for what it was, I mean, for being a puzzle game and for everything that it had to offer, I mean, it got rated really, really well. These review sites that were put up here, I've never heard of any of them.
They're like from back in the day.
Yeah.
Well, right.
Older publications and stuff.
Somebody here had feathered hair while reviewing this.
But yeah, through Your Sinclair gave it a 9 out of 10. Zap64 gave it a 98%, and Ace gave it a 95. But moving past just reviews, it actually sold 8 million copies worldwide on the NES, that's a lot.
It's a lot. Yeah, for not coming with the actual system.
Right. That's 8 million aside from and Game Boy, as of 2009, the Game Boy version has sold over 35 million copies.
Good Lord.
That's a fuck ton.
Hell yeah, dude. 35 million copies.
That's a lot of doubloons.
That's ridiculous. I mean, because you figure however many copies came with the Game Boy initially. I mean, I don't know if they're just talking original Game Boy or if they're talking Game Boy in general, but that's insane.
It is insane. But also during some games I would pay $35 million to get that one long fucking block because I've been building up this one side for the whole fucking game waiting for that one block, and then like at the end you accidentally mess up and you block your hole and then the long thing comes in
and you're fucked.
Yeah. What happened to your Game Boy? I fucking threw it, Mom. I threw it.
Wanna know why? Because Tetris.
That goddamn long block came 2 blocks too late.
The story of my life.
That's happened so many times, man.
But I mean, on top of selling 35 million for just Game Boy, as of January of 2010, actually, the Tetris franchise sold more than 170 million copies. Fuck. I mean, breaking down those numbers a bit though, 70 million physical copies, and then 100 million digitally for cell phones and what have you, making it the best-selling paid downloaded game of all time. So between,
I believe it.
Think of that though. I mean,
I think you go on a flip phone. It's so easy.
70 million, but that's the crazy thing though. In 2010, I mean, we're being more in the digital age at that point. You're still selling 70 million physical copies of that game.
Yeah.
That's
impressive.
That's very impressive. I mean, the 100 million, digital copies, okay, because anybody with any kind of digital device, why not? You download or buy Tetris, what have you, but that fact that 70 million people still bought physical copies of the game is kind of a sign of how good and how wanted that game still is to this day. I mean,
Yeah, and like 43 million of those copies was just for Game Boy and the NES version of the original Tetris game. The 70 million physical copies, that's for like the entire
that's
Tetris
half.
franchise.
Yep.
Yeah, so Tetris, the original, is responsible for more than half of that 70 million physical copies being sold.
that's nuts.
It's really freaking crazy, right?
I mean, that's why it got, it's got a few different awards that we got here too. EGM's 100th issue had it number 1 of the greatest game of all time, which they're not wrong. And again, I mean, 2007, Tetris came in second in IGN's top 100 greatest games of all time. I don't know what came in first.
It was probably Conker's Quest or Castlevania 64 or Simon's Quest.
And then
the original Pitfall.
Oh,
Ooh, look out for that gator.
Yeah.
Computer Gaming World, which never actually heard of it, but whatever. I was 2 years old at the time.
Yeah.
Gave it the 1989 Compute Choice Award for arcade game, describing it as, and I quote, "by far the most addictive game ever." They're not wrong.
No.
They are not wrong by any means. And then actually, this is kind of neat too, that the Guinness Book of World Records recognized Tetris as the most ported game in history, or the most ported game in the history of video gaming, appearing on in excess of 65 different platforms as of 2011.
That means there was one probably on the 3DO, and that's disgusting.
Probably.
Which, I mean, because I don't know when they actually, obviously 2011, somewhere around there, but that was soon. I mean, because up until I don't know when, but they haven't really included much in the way of like gaming stuff that I know. I mean, up until the past, I'd say the last maybe 10 years or so.
Yeah, probably not, because speedrunning was just some things kids did between themselves. It wasn't like what it is now. Is I'm gonna go beat Super Mario Brothers in like 1 hour or something. Yeah, 3 minutes.
Done. I mean, that's about really all I've got for this episode. I don't know about if you guys have any other thoughts to kind of round out the episode.
It was terrible on the Virtual Boy.
Never played it. I could imagine though.
I played a lot of Tetris on my my smartphone.
Actually, this week I just downloaded Tetris on my phone and was playing it at work a lot.
I played Tetris Ultimate just last week.
Ooh, that's a good one. It's a lot of fun.
On the PS4. All the enhanced graphics and shit.
Yeah, because you really need, enhanced graphics for Tetris.
Hey, you need your baby doll to be pretty, right?
That's right.
I think more or less that's it, but just a quick little announcement before we close out this week's show. We are going to be taking a 2-week break, just scheduling issues and so forth. But
it's my fault.
No, it's actually my fault this time.
It's both your faults, but that's not here nor there.
Fuck you, DC.
Not pointing fingers. But basically, we will be making our, triumphant return on July 9th, and we're actually going to be starting a 4-week little special event, I'll call it, that you really don't want to miss. It's going to be a lot of fun. Starting July 9th is the first part of this 4-part little mini series we're putting together. So definitely keep an eye out. We're not going to really spoil what it's going to be, but it's going to be good.
Simon's Quest.
Yep. 4 weeks of that.
The history of Castlevania.
Oh no, we don't want it. That would take more than 4 weeks, and I would love to do that.
8 weeks.
The Symphony of the Night alone would be like 7 weeks.
Oh, such a good game.
Oh,
preaching to the choir, man.
But I think that's going to do it for this week's episode. As always, DC here, and you can find me mainly Twitter, DC Skater Shane. Drop a follow. There's some usually fun things that I'll post. Some wrestling things, some variety of fun stuff. But what about the rest of you guys? Where can everybody check you guys out?
You can find me everywhere. It's Mr. Bojangles 1984 on Mixer, YouTube, Twitter, PSN. If you want to send me dirty messages, send them over there.
Well, that's a given, but
Let me see them nuts.
isn't that how you start a friend request? I mean,
yeah. Pixar didn't happen. All right, you can find me at Drake Dangerson on PSN, YouTube, Drake_Dangerson on Twitch, and then Drake Dangerson 1 on Twitter. I tweet about everything, so feel free.
just look for the otter.
Yeah, look for the otter.
Otter Squad.
Such a friendly otter, and then Drake opens his mouth.
If by the picture you say friendly otter, you are way off. Look at that guy.
He is not friendly by any means, but
He is ferociously attacking that piece of melon.
That melon is not having a good day.
But yeah, I mean, thanks everybody for hanging out with us over on Mixer, watching the video versions on YouTube, or checking out the audio versions on Podbean or iTunes. And if you haven't already, give us a follow on Twitter over at GC Continuum. Subscribe to our YouTube channel for the video versions as well. And really, send any feedback to us over at gamecastcontinuum@gmail.com. We're always looking to improve the show for you guys, our listeners, and looking forward to any kind of advice to make the show better.
Yep.
Or if we mess something up, call us out on it.
Yeah. And if you're interested in supporting us as well on our Podbean page, we do have the Patreon, so you guys can donate to the channel, help us pay for the next year of service, so we can continue pumping out these episodes. It's up to you, of course, but every little bit helps.
But yeah, I think that's about it. And thanks again for tuning in each and every week. We'll see you guys in 2 weeks now for another episode of GameCast Continuum.
Happy Father's Day out there.
Get those butts ready for 2 weeks, because it's coming.